What the hell was... We're live, Jesus! Hello! You see... Oh,
Finally.
Well, that's your fault.
Wow, I don't know what you mean.
Say hello! This is Callum and welcome to a brand new live stream!
I didn't know it was brand new. I thought it was like yesterday's.
Oh, I can't be arsed.
You just walk.
You always swear.
Yeah, not 10 seconds in.
It's not been 10 seconds, it's been like a minute.
That's cool.
Gotta sort my lights quickly. Ow! You might... Yeah, I can't be arsed. Let's move on. Hey, hello, this is Callum and welcome to a brand new live stream. Today, I'm being joined by three geezers. Well, one's not here yet because he... Why is there weird outlines? Come on. Let me just sort out my...
You want to say?
Wait a minute. Should be timbers. I can't be arsed.
You might not turn it off, you want to fishing yourself.
So yeah, hello everyone, welcome to a brand new live stream. I've been joined by three geezers, but they're not one's not here yet because he informed us he was going his nan's, even though he's had all day to do it.
Without even telling us.
Exactly. Until it was too late. So, at the moment I've been joined by these two geezers.
Ryan.
You guys are not professional, are you?
No.
Elliot.
Elliot, well you are an egghead, so.
No, you're
Oh, thanks.
That's not a bloody, that's not in a good way.
Oh.
Not in a good way. So, as you might have known, we did not do a live stream yesterday, but only because we couldn't be bothered.
I wasn't here.
Yeah, we know you weren't here.
That's why you didn't film it.
No, it was because of Elliot.
Just tell them that. Are you going to start the video?
In a minute!
I'm bored just sitting here.
I'm bored of you.
Wow.
Oh. So yeah, welcome to a brand new stream. Sorry we did not do
That
it.
one.
Oh, in a minute, I already selected something.
Wait, go back.
Oh, I can't be arsed with this,
I
man.
just need to replace my batteries.
Go down.
What? Oh my god.
Gallo, what the...
I can't be arsed with this, man.
You want a warm-up routine?
No!
Just replace
Oh,
my batteries.
okay. Nah. Wait a minute. I want to find sleepover stories. I need...
There, I just saw one.
No, but that was the second one. I want to watch the first. There it is. So we get started with that in just 1 minute. But how are you two today? Well, Eric's just changing his batteries.
I'm doing excellent. Except my back's aching.
Oh, come on. You've got...
Yeah.
Alright, let me just try to turn this around a little bit. I might have to move my chair up because you can see like weird outline.
Oh, my stomach's hurting.
Oh,
Rock.
so yeah, Andrew's going to be in the stream a little bit later on, but yeah, we'll get to that in a minute. Wait for Eric to get back and we'll start these videos. So yeah, Epic Gold will be returned Sunday, just in case if that was the questions on everyone's minds. Probably not, but why not? I can't imagine the future.
What?
Well, as in the future, I mean 2 days from now. Because
no one can see what happens tomorrow.
well, because I'm doing another live stream on this tomorrow.
Are you
Because
sure?
yes, I am.
Without me.
Well, it's your well.
It's not get many views. Without me.
No.
I'm back.
Ryan said we don't get much views if he's not in the video.
But I'm funny.
Oh, we do?
Yeah, we do because we've spent like
1 million.
we've had views.
You can have that, I don't like that.
You do not like cowboy nibbles. You are sad.
Me, as soon as you eat candy, my stomach starts fucking hurt.
Oh, you're super me. Well, we have got views. Saying, well,
I was only joking.
good because you're never in videos anyways.
I'll stop you.
I still get views though.
Right now, start
More
the video.
than you do. Oh, you're what? Right, okay, let's get. Okay, here's got the first story.
Finally.
3 sleepover stories.
But
Ah, fuck!
that's way too loud.
I've literally just started and I've already jumped already. Where's the remote? Where did the remote go?
Up the house.
Oi!
Yeah.
No! But we need it loud anyway, so the viewers can hear it, so I don't care.
I mean, Callum, didn't you legit swear in like the first 10 seconds?
No. Oh crap, I just backed out.
It's way too loud. I'm gonna get
I
deaf.
don't. What?
You're trying to make me
When I
go
was
deaf.
15 years old, my best friend Anthony wanted me to come over for the night since his parents would be gone all weekend. I rode my bike over
Hey,
and
can
put
you hear
it in
that?
his backyard before letting
Yeah.
myself in through his
Okay, we're
back
good.
door.
Oh,
We
no!
played basically every video game he had, from FIFA all the way to Call of Duty.
You play Call of
With popcorn
Duty,
and other junk
virgin.
food spilled out all over the floor. As
I
the
play
night
Call of
progressed,
Duty.
we moved from video games to watching half a movie
I mean, I
and
did.
getting bored, to doing prank calls at close to 10 o'clock. Anthony made a few calls to different pizza places. When it was my turn, I just dialed a few random numbers in hopes to get someone at their house. On, say, my fourth attempt, I finally reached somebody. A guy with a deep and rough voice picked up, answering with a yeah instead of a hello.
Hello?
Anthony's laughing in the background made me stumble with my words mid-sentence, ultimately cracking up into laughter. I had never done a prank call, so I sucked at it. The guy on the other end was silent. I regained a straight face and tried to continue with the call. It went something like this. Sir, would it be alright if I borrowed one of the wheels from your car? What's your name, kid? My name is Bob. Really? You sure it's not Anthony?
Oh!
It hit me like a brick.
Damn!
I looked up at Anthony, whose face was noticeably full of fear.
Damn!
I hung up the phone, not wanting to be on the line with whoever that was for another second. Anthony, who the hell was that? I asked him. I don't know, he told me. Does your caller ID info display your name or something? No, it shows my dad's name. We hopped on the computer and did some research, trying to figure out how it was possible to get someone's name through their phone number. It didn't make sense how he could get Anthony's name so quickly. He was way too young at the time to be on any of those personal information sharing websites. We ended up asking the question on Yahoo Answers,
Yahoo.
since no one had a similar experience. The question turned up no answers. I suggested he call his dad, but he said he wasn't supposed to have anybody over for the weekend, so he didn't want to call.
Stop being such a wuss.
We planned on sleeping in the living room, so we just resumed watching the movie that we hadn't finished from earlier. Right after the phone call had left my mind, me and Anthony looked at each other when we heard his front storm door opening, and then the doorknob to the front door began to turn.
Oh crap.
It only was able to turn about halfway before the lock restricted it.
Haha, no,
Anthony turned off
you
the
do
TV,
not get into
and
my
I went over to the window
property.
to see who it was.
You're
I
adopted.
spread the blinds open. There's a tall guy standing outside. He noticed the blinds moving and turned to look at me. I practically threw the blinds back into place. Me and Anthony hid in the kitchen, listening for any more noises.
I would have
We
grabbed
heard
the
the
knife.
sound of the key to the back
Oh,
door
for
opening
God's
as
sake,
he walked
advert.
outside the kitchen window.
Adverts again.
The most important thing for me is to be returning to fitness safely.
No.
On my body.
Nah, geezer.
God damn it, I said. I forgot to shut the back door.
Oh, you are stupid.
Anthony urged me to run and shut it. I made it to the hallway leading to his back door
How
and
did you forget to
froze.
shut the back door?
There was
Yeah,
a
how do you forget
silhouette
to do that?
standing outside the
Silly.
back door.
I don't know.
You
I
silly
don't think
boy.
he noticed me, but he was surely looking into the house.
Hello, geezer.
He opened the door and stepped inside. I tiptoed to the kitchen and motioned for Anthony to follow me upstairs.
I would have grabbed a
We
knife.
made it to his room as quietly as
knife!
possible, pulling the door shut
I'm
to
not
avoid
joking,
making
mate.
any
I'm like,
noise.
bro,
Well,
I'll stab you,
We
bro.
crawled
I can
under his
understand.
bed.
I can understand that
He had
from
cloth
you.
covering the bottom of his bed, so you couldn't see anything under it unless you actually moved the cloth.
No, if someone broke in like
The
that,
doors
I'd
downstairs
get
all
you
opened.
tied like
each one
next
getting
to the
closer to
door,
the
and I'll be
stairs.
the distraction.
Thumps finally
You'd be the
began up the
distraction. I'll be like
stairs, and he
behind
was
like
right
the
outside
counter.
the door now.
When he walks in, I'll
The
stab
door
him
to the
from the
room
back of the
opened.
leg, and then you'd run up, and then you'd slash his throat.
That's
I
nice.
could hear Anthony's breathing. It was too loud.
Shut up.
Footsteps moved over to the closet, and then the closet opened. I could hear the coat hangers being slid around as the fabric of the jackets and coats rubbed against each other. Footsteps moved over to the bed and stopped. I felt like my heart was about to explode out of my chest.
Shut up,
Anthony's
Anthony, you
breathing
stupid.
was too loud. I had to cover his mouth with my hand. Nothing but silence in the room now. We laid still for so long, I almost thought he wasn't even in the room anymore. I moved my hand away from Anthony's mouth and whispered in his ear, "You think we can make a run for it?" He was about to answer when the most disturbing, memory-haunting scream I'd ever heard filled my ears as Anthony was seemingly dragged out from under the bed. I crawled out and started struggling with the man. I desperately looked around for anything to use as a weapon.
Bro.
I settled with the screwdriver sitting on his
That's
nightstand.
good enough.
I hurried over to the man and drove the screwdriver into his back. He let go of Anthony as he let out a scream of agony, giving us time to get the hell out of the house.
Bye!
Running onto the road would give away our position too easily. It would take too long to make it to his neighbor's house. We dove for the tree line in the woods and took cover behind a bush, watching the house. The back door opened as the man stepped outside, looking around the backyard. He then looked out to the woods. I felt his eyes pass me as he scanned through the tree line. It seemed that it was too dark for him to see us. Then, he turned his head back in our direction. I ducked behind the bush. "Joe, he's coming." "What?" "Dude, get up, we gotta run." He was right. The man was approaching us fast. How could he have seen us? We ran through the woods with the leaves crunching under us, giving away our position. When Anthony tripped over something, I crouched down with him, hoping we had run far enough. Not even 20 seconds later, oncoming footsteps from the direction we were running from came fast. They slowed down only 2 trees away from us as we lay face down in the leaves. Moments later, the footsteps take off in another direction. We waited until we could no longer hear them and took off back in the direction of the house. While running, over the sound of leaves crushing and my heavy breathing, I could swear I heard leaves crushing from behind us. We made it back to his backyard, into his house, and this time, remembering to shut the back door. We were now able to call the police. Anthony stayed on the line with them, while I patrolled the back windows, making sure nobody was out there. It was so dark, though, I couldn't see anything. So I did something that seems stupid today. I turned on his backyard lights.
Oh, for
And
God's
immediately in the
sake.
distance, over by the woods, I saw him, standing in front of a big tree.
Hello.
He turned off back into the woods and disappeared out
I would
of
have
sight.
grabbed 2 knives and
That was the last time me or Anthony ever saw him. I would be lying if I told you we heard the occasional knocks at our windows or something cliche.
2 knives.
No,
I don't know,
that was
fly
it.
to a road.
5 years have passed and nothing has happened. Do I wonder if it was somehow linked to the prank call?
Maybe.
Maybe.
Makes more sense.
Does it make sense? Not really.
What do you mean? Yes, it does.
But yeah,
Mate.
this was the story of how me and my still best friend
Yeah.
Anthony almost died during a break-in.
Oh, for God's sake.
Mate.
Nah, it obviously was linked to the prank call, though, because why else would he... Wait, that wouldn't have happened
How
otherwise.
would you do me at your house?
Oh,
Mate, I would have grabbed a knife, bro.
I know
I'm
you
like,
would.
bro, we need to get a knife.
Get a knife!
They were probably too scared to grab a knife. Like, oh my God, he would.
This guy's an idiot because he forgot he'd even shut the back door. Why would you do that?
And then plus,
Who does that?
Yeah, who does that? Innit?
innit? But.
Blood.
Listen.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they obviously know who it is now.
A guy who tried to kill him.
No, they know his name. They'll know his name.
They don't know his name.
They will. The blood. They can take that as DNA, give it to the police. Boom, boom. There we go.
Boom, boom. Right, next story.
Yep.
Me and my wife have had our fair share of arguments, but there was this one night that she wouldn't stop bitching over the stupidest shit.
Oi!
It got to the point where I forgot to put the toilet seat down, and she lectured me at the top of her lungs with an ear-piercing voice that I just couldn't take it anymore.
What?
I called my buddy Paul up.
That's a bit
and
mad,
he told me
isn't
I could crash there for the night. I was exhausted, and I didn't need to deal with my crazy wife at the time. Paul had a huge house, which was another thing my wife always yelled at me about, how all my friends have nicer houses than us. We had a few beers and had a bro chat. He suggested I stay there for as long as I needed, but I assured him I'd only stay for one night. I didn't want to be a bother. I slept in one of his guest bedrooms. Surprisingly, he has 3 guest bedrooms, but has only needed to use one of them so far. He never uses the other 2 bedrooms, and only plans on using them for a party or something like that. All 3 guest bedrooms in the house are lined up next to each other, while Paul's bedroom is across the hall. It's a weird setup for sure, but it let me hear strange noises coming from the next room over. I assumed it was Paul doing something in there, but it quickly got annoying, so I decided to just walk over and see what was going on. I tried the doorknob, but it was locked.
Doorknob.
I cracked the door open to Paul's room and asked him what the noise was. He was already in bed as well. He didn't hear anything. Upon asking why he kept the door locked, he told me he always keeps those 2 doors locked, as he keeps some personal belongings in there. I warned him that there was a strange noise coming from the room, and he told me to just go back to sleep, and if I continued to hear it, come back to him. So I did. I went back to bed, and the noises were completely gone now. A half hour passed. I was starting to drift off to sleep at last, when I heard the slightest tap on the wall. It came from the other side, the next room over. It was followed by a faint voice. I jolted up from the bed and ran back to Paul's room. This time, he took me seriously. He got the key to the 2 doors and unlocked the one next to mine. We stepped inside and felt a breeze hit us on the way in. The window was completely open, along with the closet.
What?
We dug through the entire room. The bed had marks on it as if someone were on it. The closet was full of empty bags, and his valuable belongings that were in his drawers were gone.
Oh.
Paul suddenly ran out to the hallway. I was confused at first, but I caught on quickly as he was checking the other room. I was right by his side as he unlocked the door to the 3rd guest bedroom, and the first thing we saw was a black figure jumping out the window onto the patio roof. Paul was about to jump out after him, but we instead both ran outside through the back door in hopes to catch him. He was gone already. It's a good thing we didn't catch him though, because what we found in this room was far more disturbing. The white sheets on the bed were stained with blood. The closet had the butcher knife he had been missing sitting on the floor with a few blood spots on it. And of course, all of his valuable belongings were gone. These people, most likely homeless and likely dangerous drug addicts, were living in his home for a little more than a week. He had even mentioned something about how fast his food goes, and yet he's so skinny when we were drinking. That made a lot more sense now. As far as we know, none of them were ever caught.
Oh, you've got to be joking me.
No, that's impossible. They had DNA. Fingerprints
I
on the
remember it
soul.
like it was yesterday.
Oh, I
It was
can't
my
be
first
asked.
sleepover, an important part of my childhood.
This is the more again.
I don't
He's my
care.
good friend. His name was Jordan. We were 10 years old. He had a huge basement where we could play video games until 1 in the morning and then sleep on the couches. Skipping the teeth brushing like 2 little rebels, we went straight to trying to get some sleep on the couches.
Bro,
I fell
these
asleep
rebels
with
want to
ease.
fight me. I heard it.
I woke
They're
up
like,
at some
yo, bro,
unknown
you
time.
wanna fight me?
I
Big
realized
man.
the TV was still on, with a blank screen. It was giving off a very dim light, but it was enough to notice something in the far corner of the basement by the stairs. It was some tall object. I didn't know what it was, and I can't really describe how it looked. All I know is it almost reached the ceiling. The sound of the TV turning off and the small amount of light vanishing was almost enough to make me start screaming. I shut my eyes and just laid there motionless. I don't even remember falling back asleep. All I remember is waking up to a sudden and horrid screaming coming from upstairs.
Oh my god.
It was Jordan's mom. He woke up as well, and we looked at each other before sprinting upstairs to his parents' room. His mom was sitting there crying as his dad was turning the room upside down looking for what she saw. He barged out past us looking for anybody in the house, but there was nobody in the house. No signs of entry or exit. I'm still friends with Jordan today, and the last time I brought this up, he said his mom doesn't like to talk about it, but she did once admit she saw a tall, dark figure standing by their bedroom door. I'm undoubtedly sure that's what I saw in the basement that night.
We've all seen the massive spike in
Fam.
Bitcoin this year, over $50,000.
Right. Hey. That'd be convenient.
There's volume 4.
Well, this is part 2.
Oh, okay.
That's part 4. I don't know why it does it like in volumes. Part 2! We're in part 2! What?
I don't think we're gonna start having a
I
full
am
break into
14
my
and
home.
my friend is
To
15.
just grab an iPhone.
One night, my friend asked me if I wanted to
Dad.
spend the night, so I
No!
did.
Ah,
His mom was
but
at
someone
work,
broke into
and his
my
dad
house.
was at the
Straight
gym.
to the kitchen.
Me and my
Let's go get a knife.
friend were upstairs in his room playing
Hold on, you see. Yeah, the quality's up. I didn't.
That's what I'd be like, brother.
video games. We kept hearing what sounded like scratching noises and slight banging. We thought nothing of it because he has
I'd
a
be
dog,
pissing
so we kept
myself.
playing our video game. Minutes later, we heard the noises again, but they were louder. And so we went to go see if it was the dog. It couldn't be the dog because it was lying outside his parents' room. Fearing someone was trying to break in, we grabbed our knives and flashlights.
Good job,
We
Dada.
searched all the rooms upstairs, then went downstairs, searching it with only our
You're following
flashlights.
Ryan's guidebook on how
We
to
decided
prevent
it
a
would be best to
break-in.
search his backyard.
Why would you drop
Although
your
we
knives?
don't know how someone would get
Oh,
in
never
his
mind, man.
backyard because it's fenced in and there's a deep drop-off on the other side of the fence at the back. The search came up empty. I convinced my friend we should search the front of his house and make our way around his fence. We went around front and he went left and I went right. On the right, his fence connects to his neighbor's, so I went over to him to find him frozen with his light shined in the direction of the woods near the drop-off. I was weirded out and shined my light in the direction of his to find a guy dressed from head to toe in all black, frozen and staring at us. At this moment, I yelled "run," and we bolted inside the house and called 911. We waited, and minutes later 2 officers arrived to find nothing, and they told us to call them again if anything happens. Me and my friend were instructed by his parents to stay inside and downstairs in case anything happens, so we did. About an hour later, me and him were sitting downstairs on the couch, and he out of nowhere asked, "Did you see that?" "See what?" He then said, "The light. Someone shined a light through the window over the fence." About a second after he said that, I saw a beam of light shine through the window. So we called 911 once again, and the officers showed up minutes later and yet again found nothing. Me and my friend at this point were paranoid and waited until his dad showed up, and we took him outside to the backyard where we all heard footsteps. His dad convinced us that it was just a hunter, so we went to bed with no more problems. Unfortunately, it doesn't end there.
Oh.
My friend asked me about 2 weeks later if I wanted to spend the night again, and I did. Later that night, his parents were both still at work. We were joking around about what had happened with what we thought was the hunter, as his dog was outside doing its business. While we were talking, I peeked out the back door to check on his dog, to find what looked to be someone peeking over the fence. So we immediately called his dog in and locked the door. We left it alone, and minutes later, as we were in his room, we heard noises. So I looked out his window to once again see what looked like a guy peeking over the fence. So we grabbed knives and flashlights once again and went in the backyard and shined the flashlight in the direction we thought we saw the person. The light illuminated the outline of a head at the area of the fence we thought we saw the guy. We ran inside and called 911 and they responded. Minutes later, they showed up and again found nothing and sat at the area outside the fence near the woods for 5 minutes in case something happened. Nothing happened, so they left, and they told us to call back if anything happened.
Again.
We didn't tell his parents this time because we thought they wouldn't believe us. Me and my friend returned upstairs to his room,
I
and
would have
about
my
2
phone
hours
charged,
later, we
recording
heard the
outside.
loudest banging
Yeah.
ever. It started
Fuck.
from the downstairs on the
Jesus.
left side and went to the front door. We freaked
Scared
out,
me.
grabbed the dog, and barricaded ourselves in his parents' room and got his dad's gun out in case we needed it.
Oh, good
We
job,
then called
Dada.
911, and again the police showed up and found no one and no sign of anyone and left. That was the last time we ever had that problem, and it still has us scared to this day.
Nothing really happened.
I was 14 years old, hanging out with my friend Jesse, who was also 14. We were in the living room playing Call of Duty. His parents weren't home for the night, so we were being as loud as we wanted. We were doing nothing but playing video games and eating junk food all night. And eventually, since his parents weren't home, he convinced me to just stay over for the night. So after Jesse went upstairs to go to the bathroom, I went downstairs to call my mom in private and tell her I would be staying over. By the time I got back upstairs, Jesse was back, and he just stared at me with a confused look on his face. I asked him what was wrong, and he said he thought that I was upstairs, as he thought he heard someone in the bedroom next to the bathroom. I assured him I was downstairs making a phone call, and he just looked back upstairs with a concerned look. He walked upstairs, and I followed him. He stopped at the door to the bedroom and put his ear up against it. He then opened the door and peeked into the room. It was dark, but I could see there was enough light in there to be able to scan the room. We didn't see anything, so he shut the door. I told him he was being paranoid as we went back downstairs to play more video games. We turned the volume back up loud and resumed playing. After the match ended, the loading screen came up, along with the silence that usually accompanies loading screens. That's when me and Jesse both looked at each other. Jesse hit the mute button as we listened to what we were sure was somebody grunting from upstairs in that bedroom. But soon after the silence from the television, there was silence from upstairs as well. Jesse whispered to me that someone is hiding up there. They must have stopped making the noise as soon as there was silence down here. Jesse whispered to me that we need to leave through the back door right now, as it was much quieter than the front door. I agreed, and we headed outside to the back door. As soon as we were outside, Jesse got on the phone with the police as I looked up to the bedroom window. For some stupid reason, I turned on the flashlight on my phone and aimed it up to the window. About 3 seconds later, my heart dropped as someone stepped into view from behind the glass, but only for a brief moment. They seemed to crouch down under the window after spotting us. Jesse saw it too. That's when we actually took off down the block. We only came back when we saw a police car parked outside with its lights on. Jesse unlocked the front door for the two cops, and they went inside to investigate. As me and Jesse were outside waiting by the car, we saw him. Him, as in the guy who was shortly at the window. He was coming out from the backyard, walking really fast, yet also clearly trying to keep quiet. This man was really tall, like 6'5" or something.
I am 6'5".
He looked to be mid-40s. Me and Jesse ran inside and screamed for the cops to come outside, but by that time he was gone, and we had no idea which direction he could have gone in. Inside of the bedroom that the man was in, a giant clothes bag had been pulled out from under the bed with certain articles of clothing obviously missing. There was also money missing from the desk drawer, and the desktop computer had been turned on. We never saw or heard of this man
Why
again.
wouldn't you steal a laptop?
Life doesn't always go to plan.
Fam.
And we have to adapt.
No!
Of course, you idiot. Tell
Ew.
No thing!
this advert.
Ryan!
Place in the summer
Yeah.
of 2008 when I was 12
You
years
tipped my
old.
camera
I
over,
was
well
sleeping
done.
over at my friend Calvin's house. I can't remember every little detail about what was going on, but I remember Calvin's family came home unexpectedly early, and things were getting a bit hectic in the house. So we came up with this cute little idea of pitching a tent up in the backyard and sleeping out there for fun.
Hold on.
We figured why not, since it was warm out anyway. We pitched the tent in like 15 minutes with Calvin's backyard nightlight giving us enough light in the dark.
Oh my god.
Now, on one side of Calvin's backyard beyond the fence was about 100 yards of nothing but trees. We lived in the country in New Jersey. Anyway, after goofing around for a while, Calvin turned off the nightlight and we finally went to
Night,
sleep.
fam.
Now, I don't know about everyone else, but I cannot for the life of me fall asleep in sleeping bags, or let alone anything but my bed. I was twisting and turning for like 3 hours trying to fall asleep in that thing. Sometime during the night, I started to hear a little rattly, creaky type sound coming from around the fence. It gave me chills at first, naturally. I wanted to wake Calvin up, but I didn't. It sounded like the wooden
Ryan!
fence was being pushed, or
Yeah?
it was just moving.
What are you
It was
doing?
a bit
You're
windy
knocking
out
my
there,
equipment.
but still,
You're knocking my
nevertheless.
equipment
Me,
over.
when you want to wake outside in a pretty rural area, and hearing a weird sound would make anyone uneasy. I tried to ignore it for the longest time. rolling around for like 3 hours.
You are knocking my equipment over.
The constant strange sound was just too weird, and I was getting downright freaked out. I felt the urge to pee coming on, and I didn't really want to go out there without knowing Calvin was awake. So I woke him up and told him to listen to that noise. Of course, he thought it was just the wind, but as long as he was awake, I did feel better about leaving the tent. I unzipped the tent and naturally looked in the direction of the noise. I couldn't really see anything, it was too dark. So I walked over and flicked on the nightlight switch.
Okay,
When I looked at the fence, I saw there was a person leaning on the fence with his head down, seemingly pushing the fence. I immediately turned the light off and practically dove into the tent. I whispered to Calvin what I saw, and as we both fell silent, we realized that the noise had stopped. I told Calvin to call his house phone as quietly as possible, but he said we should run straight for the back door. I agreed. He unzipped the tent as quietly as possible and opened a little door, and when he ran out of the tent, he screamed. In reaction, I jumped out from the tent and ran straight for the back door as well, not looking behind me. When I asked Calvin why he screamed like that, his response scared me. He told me he saw somebody standing right by the side of the tent in arm's reach. The rest of the night we slept in Calvin's room upstairs, and I could swear, with the window open, I could still hear the creaky fence being pushed, but every time I looked, I couldn't see anyone out there.
Oh my god, that's a bit...
So you didn't even call the police? Are you mentally deficient?
Andrew has to go Tesco's soon.
Oh my god! I slapped that dude.
Hold on. Let me just pause it for a sec.
Why?
I'm texting Andrew, man.
Can they see that?
I don't think so.
So why pause it?
And I'm just texting Andrew quick.
No, you're taking too long.
Shut up.
You're slow. And you're also slow in the head.
Menu.
Dreams. I gotta go from another nation. Which nation? My imagination.
Let's go.
Pretty perfect horror story all you through.
I don't get why cousin Volume just put in part. He did that for the last one.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
My cousin Tyler and I used to have sleepovers.
My cousin Tyler, we used to have
Always at his
sleepovers.
house, though, because he had the cool house. Back then, before cell phones and modern video games, kids actually used to do normal kid things. Like, for example,
Did they
we
not?
loved to play hide and seek at night.
Playing phone and playing
One time
computer
when we were
games that are normal.
both our parents were going out to in Atlantic City.
This generation.
So they had my other cousin, Tyler's
Yeah.
older brother Joe, keep watch on us. An hour into the night, however, Joe told both of us he was going out and not to tell Mom. Tyler and Joe would commonly do this because it mutually benefited them. Tyler loved having the house to himself, and Joe hated staying home all night. By the time he left, it was already a little later in the night, like 9 o'clock.
Not that
We
late.
had our dinners and decided it would be a good idea to play hide and seek. Their house was honestly massive, so it was always a lot of fun. I was hiding first. We started in the basement where Tyler would count. We had a rule that we couldn't use any house lights, only flashlights.
We cannot use house lights, fam.
This was because it just made it cooler.
No, it just makes you look like dumb.
I tiptoed up the stairs, then up the next flight of stairs to the upstairs of the house. The upstairs had a whole other living area, along with 3 bedrooms. I chose to hide in one of the unused bedrooms. I buried myself between 2 big beanbag chairs and a blanket. I left the door open to avoid any suspicions. I heard creaking coming into the room, lively footsteps. Tyler was now moving around the carpeted room. I could hear him. He went over to the closet and opened it. Then he opened the second closet. Silence. Then he walked over to the other side of the room, and he started opening the drawers to the desk, rummaging through them. Suddenly I heard Tyler's young, innocent voice calling my name up the stairs in a kind of mockingly tone to try and scare me. My mouth opened and literally started twitching when I put 2 and 2 together. I lifted the blanket slightly over my head to see what he was doing,
Oh.
but it wasn't Tyler. I knew right away based off the person's
Oh
height.
no!
It was a much
Oh
taller,
my
fully grown man.
god!
It wasn't Joe, and it wasn't his dad. He perked up like a statue when he heard Tyler's voice, and I saw him duck into the corner of the room, behind the small piece of wall that sticks out there. Tyler entered the room with his flashlight and kept saying my name over and over, slow and drawn out like. I was praying his light would not reach over to the corner of the room. His light landed on me under the blanket. He may not have even seen me, but I still willingly came out and acted all defeated, fake laughing and everything. I told him he won, put my arm around his back.
Yeah, I'm just going to Tesco's. You'll be.
The room. I kept the
I'm just going to
conversation
Tesco's.
as natural as possible until we were halfway down
What?
the stairs.
And then
That's when I
you
dropped the bomb
Yeah.
and told him there was someone in there with me and nudged him to run outside. Being the scared 9-year-olds we were, all we could do was run next door and ask the woman living there to call the police for us. She did without hesitation.
Seriously?
I still remember the scene vividly, of the cops pulling up, running into the house, and 5 minutes later, ushering a guy out in cuffs.
Good
It
lad.
was a great feeling, even as a 9-year-old.
Well,
Seriously?
Mate, who puts their hand around you like that, bro?
Be careful.
One time I had to sleep over with
I'll
my friend
stop you.
Mike on a cloudy, dark night. There was a slight drizzle and occasional lightning.
Why do you
We
hate
were
me?
13
I'm
years
just
old.
nowhere near you.
Mike
Yes,
lived
you
on a
are.
dead end with one other house next to it. Across the street was a field surrounded by trees, and his backyard led to a forest. Mike and I were up late, much after his dad went to sleep.
What's behind you, man?
His dad's room was all the
What?
way upstairs.
What's behind
Mike's
your
room was on the
background?
lower level of the house by the den. So the den was where
Nothing.
we would hang out mostly to just play
well, my name's
games.
Callum, and I'm
A
Craig.
knock at the
alright?
backyard window
Hey,
interrupted our game.
Oh yeah, and Andrew is.
I know, you're.
The blind was shut, so we couldn't see outside.
Andrew just texted. Andrew's
Mike
that
went to
bored
go
walking
look.
around
I
Tesco's.
told him not to, but he did anyway.
Ha
Is
ha.
that what
As
we're
he
going
did, I
to
shut off the
finish
TV and lamps because I didn't
Oh,
want
he's
to be
bored.
seen.
That's why.
Now that it was dark in the
Stop
den
telling
and
Wolf
slightly
Googler.
brighter outside,
Hush.
we could slightly
Give Andrew
see
some
outside
player.
and see that there was
Stop being
nothing
nosy
but
at my
grass in
stuff,
the
you
distance.
coward bitch. Just
A
sit
small
down.
flash of lightning confirmed
Oi,
that there was nothing
the
but
camera.
wet grass in all
I know.
directions.
I switched it around because it's always
We
dark.
sat in the den
Okay,
with
you
the
see
lights
us
off
in the
for a while,
background.
just waiting for something else to
Why
happen.
are you doing that, Cameron?
We kept our eyes
I'm
on
not.
the window, expecting somebody to come up
I
to
did that on
it.
purpose.
Eventually, after
Gotcha.
what felt like forever later, he turned the TV and lamp back on and pretended it didn't happen.
I know.
The blinds were open this time, and every so often I'd take nervous glances at the window, just making sure
Did they
nobody
see
was out
someone?
there.
No, not yet.
After getting so absorbed in the game and forgetting to take a glance at the window, there was the second set of knocks. Mike and I both jumped up and
Uh-oh.
looked at each other.
Shit.
With all the lights on, we couldn't really see outside.
It is.
At least,
I was
not
joking.
until the flash of lightning outside,
seriously?
just for a brief moment, lit up the night sky, long enough to show the person who was standing at the window. This time, we ran upstairs to Mike's dad's room and pulled him out of bed, screaming at him to get up. The three of us ran out to the backyard in our coats and shoes, turning the backyard light on the way, and also taking along flashlights. There was a buildup of mud next to the back wall of the house where the dirt patches were, and in the puddles of mud were heavy, distinct footprints of boots. We followed the footprints as far as we could, but as the mud faded away, so did the footprints. We searched high and low for anybody. We even went around front and then out into the woods. There was nobody. We all went to sleep, Mike and I in the den. I couldn't sleep though. I was terrified.
God, you
Of
got
course,
to
the
go.
blinds were shut to the window
What?
and back door now.
Hey, what are you doing?
Everyone's talking. What?
Elliot, shut up.
Oh, don't matter.
Just as I was anticipating it, there was a third set of knocks at exactly 12:15. I remember that number. Me and Mike both jumped from the couches and ran upstairs to his dad's room once again. This time he ran outside alone and told us to call the cops. He returned soaking wet, having found nobody. The cops came for nothing because there was really nothing they could do. The knocking didn't happen again, though, and I also never slept over Mike's house again. Ever since that day, his den just always gave me the creeps.
With Andrew's patience, my guy, he's at Tesco's.
How long is the stream going on?
At 40
I
minutes.
used to be close friends with a kid named Chris. He moved away across the state when I was 8. Since we never got to see each other anymore, I got my mom to agree to drive me all the way over to Chris's new house in the country for a weekend sleepover. Pulling onto his property, I already knew this was the perfect place to do anything outdoorsy. It was a decent-sized house with nothing but woods in all directions. The first day we didn't do much because I got there late anyway, so we just talked for a while and watched a movie. A couple of times I'd think that I was hearing sounds coming from below the floor. I would ask him, "Do you have a basement? Is someone down there?" Chris went on to tell me that there was no basement, and that his whole family had been hearing weird noises coming from down there for a few days, and they planned on having some inspector over to check it out. The next day was partly cloudy and warm, so we planned on spending most of the day outside. I convinced him to go for a walk in the woods just to explore. After all, this was all kind of new to him as well. Conveniently, there was an opening into the woods that almost seemed to have meant to be a path. So as we were walking over to it, Chris's foot hit something that made a metallic kind of thud sound. His foot hit a rusty old cellar door. He said he didn't know about this, neither did his dad.
I did not know about this.
And it made an ear-piercing squeal as the rusty door turned on the hinges. It was the definition of pitch black down there, but it seemed a ladder led down a very narrow tunnel.
Hello,
Neither
my
of us
name is
dared
What
to
kind
step
of
foot
idiot
down
would
there.
do that?
I don't know.
Found that
Sound
part,
echoed
okay,
up the
there's
tunnel,
someone below the
like the
house,
sound
bro.
of something
Run,
dropping onto
blood.
a hard floor.
They're gonna try and stop you,
And then a
bro.
metallic
Why
sound
blood?
echoing up the tunnel, getting closer. As soon as we realized it was the sound of somebody climbing up the ladder, we ran to get Chris's father, who was shocked to see what we had found. He
Okay.
called down there repeatedly for anybody to come out before calling a few of his buddies over to go down with him.
Oh, the big gang.
Chris and I were
Big
forced
man
to stay
team.
inside while the three of them went down there.
As you put, it's
They
not
came back
funny.
up 5
Haha.
minutes later,
It is
all of
funny.
them visibly shaken and nervous. They came back inside and talked to Chris's mom in private. They never let either of us in on what they saw. Apparently cops showed up as well, but we were forced to stay in Chris's room, so we couldn't watch any of it. In
Bunch
fact,
of
it
dead
wasn't until
bodies.
I was 13 that Chris finally texted me one day, telling me what his dad really found down there. 3 full body bags tucked away in a corner, an old cot, broken beer bottles everywhere, and the smell of freshly smoked pot. Chris told me that when we heard something down there, we probably heard whoever was living down there, and whoever was responsible for those dead bodies.
You called it.
You did not call it at all.
I said that they
Right.
found dead bodies.
There you go.
Because, I mean, what else will you be really that...
Oh, you're odd.
No.
Ages ago, when I was a boy, one of my favorite things to do,
When I was a boy.
especially my friend Joe. Joe had the coolest house layout. It was big and it had this huge basement with a pool table, air hockey table. The entire basement looped around in a big circle. And we'd often
Oh,
ride
I
the
just
scooters
had-
around the loop in the basement while on our sugar rushes after hours.
And
of
you've been in
playing
Tesco's for like nearly
video
20
games.
minutes.
That sucks for him.
The best part was his
Just
parents
happened
could
again.
never hear us down there.
I'm happy
As they
to,
slept
like,
all the way
split up
upstairs.
For some reason.
I'll never forget the night that my mom dropped me off at Joe's house after dinner. It was the night before a holiday, so we didn't have school the next day.
Well, that's the point of holiday, innit?
Joe and I went straight to the basement and started playing one of his new video games on his PlayStation 1.
PlayStation
Suddenly, the
1,
door to the
what of
laundry room
it?
in the
Get
back
out
creaked
of-
open.
Way prefer to play the full
Paused the
game.
game and
Oh,
tried
you've got
to-
PlayStation 1.
I
Yes,
haven't got a
the door was
PlayStation 1,
now
I have a
cracked
PlayStation
open.
4 like everyone else.
I told Joe to go check it out. He said it's fine, it happens sometimes. To be honest though, sometimes at night, alone in his basement, Joe and I
You
would
should
get
have it on the
spooked.
PlayStation 1.
No.
I told him to go shut the door because something about having that door open
Yeah.
leading into a big pitch black laundry room was uncomfortable. I think he agreed because he got up to close it. After a while of playing video games, I started riding Joe's bike around the loop of the basement, which honestly was a lot more fun than it sounds. But then something else happened. There was a noise, almost like the sound of a laundry machine door being banged or closed. It came from the laundry room again, obviously. This time Joe and I ran up the stairs, freaked out, and Joe called his dad to come check the laundry room. His dad opened the door to the laundry room, had a quick 5-second look, and calmly said there's no one in there. So he went back upstairs to bed, and Joe and I continued to hang out for another hour or two. Then it came time to go to sleep. There were 2 couches.
Good night, Mr.
one in front of the
Folabi.
TV, and then another towards the back of the basement by the bar. I slept on the couch towards the back of the basement. I didn't sleep long though. I woke up and it was still pitch black in the basement. No light shining through the small basement windows. It was still the middle of the night. I rubbed my eyes and sat up after getting this weird feeling of being watched. Joe? I said. Just checking if he was awake. After saying his name, I heard and saw something moving in the darkness to the laundry room. And then the door creaked shut. I jumped off the couch to wake up Joe, but when I got to his couch, he wasn't there. That's when I became wise to what was going on. Joe was trying to scare me. I tiptoed to the door of the laundry room. I figured I would reverse it and scare him instead. I put my hand on the doorknob. After a little mental build-up, I yanked the door open and went inside screaming. I turned on the light to the room, but Joe wasn't in there. Where could he be hiding? In that moment, I was beyond confused. I knew he had to be in the room. Then I noticed something through the glass of the dryer machine. I walked over to it and knelt down. Someone was in the dryer machine, crunched up and like a ball.
What?
You know how dryer machine doors usually have the sort of tinted glass that's hard to see through? Well, I knew there was a person in there. It took me a few seconds to catch on. The person that was in the dryer machine looking back at me was not Joe. It was some grown man. I started screaming and ran all the way upstairs.
Why is
to
he in the
Joe's parents'
washer?
room. Everyone in the house came out from their bedrooms in response, including Joe. Joe apparently was having a hard time falling asleep on the couch, so he went upstairs to his bedroom. I yelled there was someone hiding in the dryer machine.
Why is someone in the
Joe's
dryer?
dad started his way storming to the basement. Somebody ran through the living room and out the front door. Joe's mom let out a scream as his dad ran outside in his slippers to try to catch the man. Of course, being that he was only in slippers, he didn't have a chance. When he came back, Joe's mom had already called the cops. When the cops came, they asked me if there was anything specific that I could make out about the man.
No.
All I could say was that he was wearing dark clothes. Joe and I slept in his room. I slept on the floor with a blanket, and we kept the door locked. We took a break from the sleepovers for a while after that.
Adverts. You guessed it, ladies and gentlemen. Adverts.
Counterproductive.
Life doesn't always go to plan, and we have to adapt. No one really prepares you for what happens after you give birth. I mean, what the impact.
Wait, why is that on story
This
number
happened
2?
quite some time
Because we've
ago.
gone to another.
In fact, it happened back
The
in
fourth
July
story
of
video.
2013. It was my 13th birthday party, and my friends and I had been to Manchester for the day, before heading back to my house for a sleepover. A couple of them had stayed over before, but some hadn't, so I wanted to make a good impression. We all decided to sleep downstairs that night, as there wasn't enough room in my bedroom. We gathered our sleeping bags on the living room floor, watched cheesy rom-coms, and ate junk food until around 1 a.m. So we decided to hit the sack after our third movie.
That just reminded
We
me of
turned
when
off the
we-
lights with the exception
Nah.
of
when
one.
we was at
Because although we
Freddy's.
didn't like to admit it then,
Yeah.
we were a little
Someone
afraid
tried
of the dark.
opening,
Yeah,
grabbed my
It's
finger,
a common
tried
thing to
it,
lie
and,
awake and chat at a
That's
sleepover after you say you're going to sleep.
I slapped him in
We
the
were in
face.
the middle of whispering to
But
each
not
other
before
who we
Fred
thought our
slapped me
celebrity
with-
lookalikes were
Um,
when we heard it.
a piece of bread.
Loud knock on our window cut
You
through our
remember that?
conversation.
Yes, let's move on. What the
What
fuck?
was that? Said Emma, one of my friends. It's probably just my dad playing a prank or something, I said. Although this whole situation was kind of freaking me out. My dad had done this type of thing before. so I assumed it must have been him. We were beginning to calm down when suddenly another forceful knock came upon the window. This made some of my friends scream. I assured everyone that, like I said, it was probably just my dad being goofy.
Stop being goofy.
So I went over to the window to catch him red-handed. The curtains were closed, so I had to pull a section of them back to see who was outside. As I did, I came face to face with a man who was most certainly not my dad. This man was bald, and very thin.
Bald?
He had a missing tooth. He was sort of hunched over, and he looked at me with widened, glassy eyes. I immediately screamed and closed the curtain. At this point, my friends and I were pretty hysterical, and Emma began visibly shaking in fear. My parents were upstairs, so instinctively, I ran up to find them. As I got upstairs, my mom was talking to someone from her window. I didn't quite catch their conversation, but she told me what happened soon after. She said that she heard the knocking too, and when she looked out of her window to see who it was, the man looked up and asked her if she had seen a friend of his. I can't remember the name of the guy she said she was looking for, so we'll call him Paul. He kept asking for him over and over. Have you seen Paul? Where is Paul? Has Paul been here?
Paul.
Of course, my mom said she didn't know anyone named Paul.
Paul.
Eventually, she had to ask him to leave us alone.
Posh.
He just kept wandering around our driveway. As the man finally left, I went back downstairs to calm my friends down. In retrospect, I feel bad for leaving them alone down there when some weird stranger was on our property. We all settled back down after that. However, my mom's maternal instincts kicked in, so she wanted to make sure he was gone completely. She left briefly to go around the block in her car to make sure he wasn't still in the area. The street was dimly lit by impractical streetlights, so she had to put her high beams on. As she was driving, she saw someone dash across the middle of the road. Thinking it was just a kid, she just kept driving until the man who was at our window appeared again. But this time, he practically jumped in front of my mom's car. My mom quickly slammed on the brakes, but before she could confront him, he disappeared off into the night. We never found out who that guy was or what his true intentions were. And thankfully, we never saw him again. So much for wanting to make a good impression.
Man, he's all alive. Imagine if you all died.
My friend Jake slept over at my house one night when we were 12. And because of that, he may have possibly saved my life. It was a snowy weekend night. We
How's
watched a
Andrew
couple
still not
Christmas
back
movies in
yet?
my
For
living room.
God's sake.
My mom would bring us snacks and hot cocoa.
Why would
It
you?
was
I don't get why you
always
didn't want
nice
to tell us
when my friends
before.
would have them over. My mom had to go to sleep kind of early because she worked. She and my dad had just recently divorced. By around 12, Jake and I went to my room where we played Pokemon on our Game Boy Advances. for a little. I don't remember much after that, besides falling asleep a little while later. I woke up in my bed to the room being extremely cold and also feeling really thirsty. I went to the kitchen downstairs to get a cup of water. I noticed how much colder it had become upstairs as opposed to downstairs. I went back to my bed and tucked myself in.
Night.
As I lay there trying to fall back asleep, I realized Jake was breathing weird, like a deeper, heavier breathing.
Shut up.
It went on for some time, and after making a note of it in my head, it was all I could focus on. So I eventually threw a pillow at him.
Shut
He woke
up.
I told him to stop breathing so loud. He was confused as he looked up at me in my bed. He said, "What are you talking about?" I told him to just lower the volume of his breathing noises, as he was borderline snoring. Jake shifted his focus from me to down below my bed, and then he screamed. He crawled
What
backwards
the-
until his back was pushing up against my dresser. I yelled, "What is it?" I hopped off my bed and looked under it where he was staring at. There was a middle-aged man with long hair laying underneath my bed. He
Hello.
had his finger up to his lips, saying, "Shh." It was a surreal sight, to say the least. I felt like my heart was beating 200 beats per minute. The man whispered, "I know your mom. I'm here to see her."
Why underneath the bed then, you weirdo?
At that same moment, Jake and I ran from the room, screaming for my mom. We got to my mom's room and locked her bedroom door behind us.
She was immediately distressed and confused by our screams. I barely had enough time to yell, "There's a man under my bed," before the doorknob to my mom's room started twisting and shaking. Then the sounds of the doorknob failing to turn shifted to heavy, aggressive bangs at the door. My mom ran to her phone and called 911. She was on the phone already in tears, while also screaming at the man on the other side of the door to leave us alone. The man tried kicking the door in, but I think when he heard my mom on the phone, he left the house. We were all in shock. It took the police only a couple minutes to arrive, at which point the coast was clear. The biggest window in our house, which was the window to the upstairs spare bedroom, was lifted up completely, which explained the cool air entering the house upstairs. That also explained the man's point of entry. I told my mom that man claimed he knew her, but she had no idea who this man could have been. My mom dropped Jake off home, and then she and I slept at my aunt and uncle's house for the rest of the night. The next day, my uncle installed a stronger lock on that upstairs window. This was like 16 years ago now. At this point, it's just a distant, haunting memory. But we never figured out who that man could have been, or how he could have possibly known my mother.
I thought it would have been his dad or something at first.
Yeah.
But no, he wouldn't have screamed that loud if it was.
Oh.
Oh man.
Oh.
What time is it? How long has the stream been going on?
56 minutes.
50 years.
56 minutes.
50 years.
It's not been 50 years, you daft kid.
50 years.
It's not been 50 years.
5 times garbage men found horrifying things. Didn't go so fast.
High school.
Right to school.
4 disturbing true high school horror stories is next.
Right, study. So, before you get stuck across your face.
High school horror stories.
Horror stories.
I was a new student to Southern.
I was a new student.
Hey, shut up.
Shut up.
Going into my junior
Or
year
I'll
of high
kill
school,
it.
not knowing anyone was really
No.
tough. Everyone obviously had their friend group sorted
Why are you
out. by
touching
then.
my pockets for?
The worst part was lunchtime, though. My school wouldn't let juniors leave for lunch, only seniors. So I had to eat in the cafeteria. I was dreading it because I knew I'd have no one to sit with, and I didn't want to force myself into a random table. When lunchtime finally came, however, I walked into the cafeteria with my tray of food looking for a place to sit. Every single table was taken. I didn't even have the option of sitting alone. But there was one table in the corner of the cafeteria with only 2 kids sitting at it. That was the least intimidating spot to sit. So I walked over and asked if I could sit there.
No.
They both looked at each other, and one of them said yeah. I noticed upon sitting down that the 2 were identical twins. They looked like they were partially of Hispanic heritage, but they didn't have accents. They honestly seemed alright. They introduced themselves as Antonio and Bruno, and they had a conversation. They invited me to hang out with them after school, and honestly, I figured, why not? I had to start off somewhere as far as making friends. I got their numbers, and after school, I went home to drop off all my stuff. Shortly after, I got a text from Bruno, telling me he and his brother were planning on hanging out. He told me to meet them around 9 that night at the nearby cemetery that was
Well,
like a 10-minute
that's
walk from
smart.
my house. He said there was a cool hangout spot near there. Plus, the first day of school was on a Friday, so we had off the next day. I had nothing to do, so I said, yeah, I'm down. When the time came, Bruno texted me one more time asking if I was still coming. I said,
No.
yeah, I'm gonna leave in a few. I confirmed we were meeting on the road by the cemetery. He said, yeah. So I began my walk in the dark to the cemetery. The longer I walked, the more I thought about my whole move and being the new kid in high school. And thinking about the fact that I was literally walking to a cemetery at night to hang out with 2 kids I just met. But anyway, I got to the little road next to the cemetery and asked Bruno where they were. He started typing right away, and he said they were in the woods hanging by a small lake that they wanted to show me. Then he promptly
Show
sent his
me,
location.
show me.
So I made my way into the woods, pushing branches out of my
Are
way,
you okay?
using my tiny phone
Are you
flashlight
okay?
as my only light.
Yeah.
I started calling for Bruno and Antonio as I felt like I was close enough, according to the location he sent me at least. Suddenly I heard footsteps, so I stopped. Definitely footsteps approaching me, but they were very low and slow.
They're just like
I
me.
called out that they better not be trying to
Should
scare
have
me.
done.
When they weren't answering me though, I decided this was stupid.
Oh,
I
stupid.
turned and started walking back towards the road. Those footsteps I mentioned earlier, they turned from quiet and slow to fast, and before I could even react, someone had their nails digging into my neck, effectively choking me. I heard a familiar voice screaming, "Grab him, grab him." I managed to break free from this sort of chokehold and sprinted towards the road. I know they followed me until the tree line by the road. I was faster than them, and I could run for miles. And that's what I did. I ran straight home
No, I
and
can't,
told
could
my
you?
parents.
Scared.
They considered calling the cops, but I thought it would be better to get pictures of the nail marks on my neck and report it to the school the next day. That's what we did, and with the help of the text that I got from Bruno, I was able to get the 2 students expelled. My parents made me block both their numbers. I didn't exactly argue with that, though. My parents wanted me to confirm that these kids didn't know where we lived, and I told them simply, not as far as I know. So anyway, one night about a week later, I woke up to my room feeling really cold. I heard the sound of wind blowing into my room, and I looked at the window to see it was slid completely open. I wondered if my mom came in to open it, but that would make absolutely no sense. It was like 50 degrees out that night. I walked over to it and looked down below. A few feet below my bedroom window, there's a part of the exterior of my house that comes outward, creating a sort of ledge underneath my window that my father always told me to jump onto in case of a fire. I shut my window and walked over to my parents' bedroom. I gently knocked and opened the door, and my mom groggily asked what. I
What?
had to ask her if she opened my window. She sat up saying, "No, why?" I told her
Because
in a
open,
louder,
wolf.
more concerned voice now that my window was opened all the way by somebody.
Jingle bells,
She
jingle
started shaking my
all the
dad to
way.
wake him up and go check my room with me. But when he woke up, he told me to grow up and go back to sleep. I left my parents' door open as I walked back down the hall to my room. Then, I picked up on something that I'm surprised I picked up on. My door. It seemed to be half shut now, as opposed to completely open when I left. I pushed the door open just a little bit so I could get a look through the crack and see if, someone was behind the door. Even though I had the thought of the possibility, I never could have actually expected to see it.
No.
There was someone hiding behind my door.
Bloody hell.
I screamed for my dad like a little girl. I screamed so loud I'm sure it could be heard 3 doors down. And my door suddenly slammed shut, just as my dad came rushing out of his room over to me. I screamed,
Yo, geezer!
So he barged into the room and turned the light on. At that moment, we saw the leg of a person jumping out my window. My dad ran to the window, then downstairs and out the front door to attempt to chase them down. But he came back a few minutes later out of breath, saying he didn't see anyone. Full of energy and fear, I swore it had to be those twins that I got expelled. My dad called the police, and I had to talk to them when they arrived, explaining the whole story back to the incident in the woods. My father backed up my story, but without proof of who entered, they said there wasn't anything they could do. They merely ordered us to lock the doors and consider installing cameras outside. As positive I am that it was either one of or both of those twins in my room, after getting through a solid couple months of sleeping in fear, nothing to this nature ever happened again. Looking back now, I don't know why I was so willing to meet these kids in the woods at night. I should have realized in the cafeteria that day that they looked like trouble, and I should have stayed away.
Oh, you think, mate?
I would have called the police when I'm arrested. They will
The most
obviously try
important
to
thing for
choke
me
you to
is
death.
to be
Yeah, because he had like nail
protected
marks on his
safely
neck,
when my
innit?
body's ready for
Yeah,
it.
I would have.
You think?
I would have sent them to jail.
Be like, bye.
Hey, little bear.
Bin.
I said bear.
I said bin.
I said bear.
Bin.
Freshman year of high school, 2007. Gym class last period.
Ah,
We had a substitution teacher on one of the stormiest days of the year.
Why are you hitting
He was
me?
an older man.
Because
a
I'm
senior
a
citizen,
road
but
man.
Gray, maybe 55 to
Road men
60.
don't even throw things at
He
their
took
friends while
attendance.
they're trying to
When he
stream.
passed me, he did a double take at me, which I found a bit uncomfortable. Not to float my own boat, but I always
Why are
understood
you
I was
hitting
older and
me?
really good for a freshman in high school.
This is it.
No.
The sub told us to get into our volleyball games, and he disappeared into the hall by the locker rooms for a while. 40 minutes went by and the period was over. It was time for us to get changed and go home. I got into the locker, but for some reason,
Oh,
the
fuck.
locker wasn't opening. I tried my usual combination over and over and over.
Oh crap, I just dropped the controller.
I had to go to the sub and let him know to ask for my combination again. I figured maybe the
Why are
combo
you
was slipped from
hitting
my
me?
mind for some reason. The sub told me to give him a few minutes and he'd get the list of locker combos. I waited outside the office, and out he finally came with a book in his hands, open to a specific page. He walked into the girls' locker room with me,
Why
which I
you
didn't expect
hitting
him to
me?
do. The locker room was basically empty now, with one girl finishing up changing. He walked over to my locker and tried the combination written down on the paper. It didn't work no matter how many times he tried it. Each time he tried it and failed, he would look at me and laugh. I would force myself to laugh along to be polite. It started
Ha ha! Ha ha!
He put his hand on
Ha!
my shoulder as he said, "We'll figure this out." He tried the combination again, with his hand still on my shoulder. And it didn't work again. I felt his hand
Do
slowly
do
start
do
inching
do
down from my
do
shoulder to my
do
lower
do
back.
do do.
I pushed myself away, grabbed my bag, saying, "It's okay, I'm late for my bus." He tried a combo in the locker one more time, and it opened. He smiled and walked away. I waited till I heard the locker room door shut. Then I proceeded to getting changed quickly. Then suddenly the room went dark. I finished pulling out my pants and shut my locker in the dark. I threw on my backpack and started walking to the back exit.
Why are you
Right
hitting
outside.
me?
I feared that the sub would be waiting right by the door for me. I got predatory vibes from him. When I got to the end of that specific aisle of lockers I was in the intersection of two rows. I'd have to turn down left to get to the exit door, but still. Naturally, I had to look right to make sure that it was clear. There was a little light seeping in from one single rectangular window that sat under the ceiling. It was enough. Enough for me to see him peeking at me from around the wall of lockers. So that's when I ran for the exit door. He came over behind me saying, wait, it's not what it looks like.
I don't think now we can
Ran
look
outside
otherwise
as I
what it
ran
looks
off
like.
the campus of the high school and walked the rest of the way home, giving me time to reflect on what happened. By the time I got home, soaking wet, it came to me that he most likely changed my locker combination somehow as a way of getting alone with me in the locker room. As for what he could have possibly been planning to do when he cut the lights, I never wanted to imagine. Honestly, I was too emotionally scared and quite frankly embarrassed to tell anyone about it. Not even my parents or friends. It was something I just kept to myself all these years, because truthfully, I just don't feel comfortable telling people.
Off.
When I was in high school, I was in the band. At my school, band was basically an easy A. It was either that, orchestra, or chorus, so I went with band. Anyhow, our band teacher, Mr. Nicholson, had the grading system set up so that as long as you attended class and went to your weekly lessons, you got an A.
Well, that
Sadly,
would be too hard
towards
for
the end of
me.
one quarter, I was
I'm
missing
getting
2
C's.
lessons. Because of that, my grade
Yeah,
was
you'd be getting C's.
I went to him after class to ask if I could make up the lessons, and even though he seemed reluctant, he said he would let me come in during a lunch period and practice in one of the downstairs storage rooms.
You
to get
cannot
credit for
practice
classes.
behind that. What do
I
you
was more
think
than
you
happy
are
with
doing,
that,
mate?
because realistically, I would probably just play games
You
on
what?
my phone anyway instead of actually practicing.
Do you want a scrap on camera?
I arrived to the music room during my
I will
lunch
have a scrap on
period.
camera.
How you can fly across the room.
Like, stand up. Stand up. Hey, dun 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 dun. Wait a minute. I didn't say start.
I should stop, bro.
Me and mine having a scrap on camera. Ah, fuck. Bro, come on. In a minute, you dropped a penny. I want that penny. I want that.
You will
Ha! No! I want
So
that.
I'd openly admit to robbing me.
I want that penny, G. Wait, let's have a pretend swap because obviously this is camera. Ready? Elliot, me and Ryan having a scrap on camera.
Okay then.
It's dun 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 dun
Doesn't work as
dun 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 dun. What the hell was that?
distraction.
Your head's a distraction.
Your life is a distraction.
Ah! Ow.
Right, Colin, let's watch it.
Okay, that was a quick.
I'm getting bored. You're
Okay.
too easy to beat up.
Well, you didn't really beat me up.
Have you replied yet?
No, I deleted it. Right, let's move on.
You little.
Okay, let's move on.
Andrew might as well not be in the stream.
Who was that laughing?
I don't know. Let's move on. I'm not really bothered.
So I took my saxophone and headed down the stairs outside the music room towards the basement area for the music department.
Yo, Elliot, do you have a sister?
It was always kind of creepy down there because
That's not my
absolutely
sister.
no
Who
one
is it?
besides the music teachers would go down there usually.
Huh?
And the lights were kind of shitty.
Step with them.
I'd only been down there a couple times before that day.
That, there. You deaf kid.
I walked down the hallway, and on either side were a bunch of doors that led into small, maybe 7 by 7 feet rooms. All of these rooms were used for storing things like chairs, music stands, spare instruments, Christmas decorations, and whatever.
Jingle bells, jingle
I
bells.
stepped into one of the rooms
You,
and shut the door.
trying to watch this, not
I set up my music on one of the stands in the room, just in case Mr. Nicholson were to come down to check on me. But really, I didn't plan on actually playing. I started playing games on my phone, and then flick. Darkness. Like, as dark as it could get. Minus my phone screen. I looked over to the light switch to the room, just instinctively. Flicked it up and down a few times, but that did nothing. I stumbled as I got up from the seat to open the door. More darkness. I held my phone out in front of me to light up this little hallway, even if it was just barely. I think I had like an iPhone 3 or something. Those old ones didn't have flashlights. But anyway, that little light from my phone was enough to see one of the doors open near the end of the hall. And I heard something being dragged in that room, like one of the big plastic containers. There was also manic breathing, followed by animal-like grunting. Then I saw a big plastic container being pushed out of that room into the hallway. As I saw this, I turned off my phone screen and went back into the room I was just in. I shut the door so quietly. I don't know what exactly I was thinking in that moment that I decided to hide. But I think the strange sounds I was hearing from this person, mixed with the random blackout, made me wary of staying in the hallway. Whoever that was, it was blocking the stairs though. Of course, I got no reception down in that little basement area. All I felt comfortable doing was sitting in that room and waiting for the lights to hopefully turn back on. But the lights seemed like they were never going to turn back on. So I decided I would try and get back upstairs again. I quietly opened the door with my phone in front of me for light. Then I stepped into the hall. I inched up a little closer to the stairs. And I heard something again. I quickly crept into the next closest room with the door open and shut it. I still didn't know what I was hiding from. Could it have been
Your
a staff
dad.
member or a janitor? At that point, the only reason I had of thinking it wasn't was because they only appeared down there after the lights turned off. I stood in that room in complete darkness, only listening and waiting for another sound from outside.
Hello, can you hear me or no?
You know how when you're in a room with someone, even if you don't necessarily hear them, you can kind of just sense their presence?
Yeah.
That's suddenly the feeling I got standing in that pitch black room. I lifted my shaking hand up and pressed the home button on my phone to turn on the screen,
Oh,
just for
man.
half a second. That was enough to see someone standing in the corner of this little storage room, 3 feet away from me. I pretended I didn't see
What
anything.
the
It was too late. Is what I heard, breaking the silence. Then, a hand patted my shoulder twice and started squeezing it. I basically dove for the doorknob, struggling to find it at first, but pulling the door open when I did. The man in the room with me tried pushing the door shut after I opened it, but I was already out. I ran up the stairs and out the door to the main level of the music hall, where the lights were still on. I ran to Mr. Nicholson to tell him out of breath. I called security to check the basement section of the music hall. But security came back upstairs and said, besides a bunch of music equipment moved around, there wasn't anyone down there. the rest of the period, Mr. Nicholson canceled his flute lesson, and I sat there in the room with him and 5 flute players, explaining the whole story in detail. Without cameras in the music hall, there was no way of catching whoever went down there and killed the power for the basement. It seemed that he was trying to steal expensive music equipment. That, or God knows what else. The next day, I was called into the dean's office to give my story of what happened, and the rest is history.
Oh my god.
Get ready for a winning lineup of
No.
Easter deals at Screwfix.
No.
What?
Nothing.
The god.
No.
One night, my friends and I hatched a genius plan. We'd sneak into the high school basement through one of the windows that was broken.
That's
and
not
never
smart.
fixed. The thing about this window, you'd have to hop
You
into
can
a
already
metal
tell
gate
it's
surrounding
fake.
outside stairs.
Because if there's a school
Not that it would
window that's
effectively
broken,
stop
they'll
anyone,
fix it
but
straight
it added
away.
that extra barrier
Yeah.
that makes you
They
feel
wouldn't
like
even
you're
leave
really
it in
doing
an
something
hour.
devious when you crossed over it. We made sure there weren't any security cars anywhere nearby and hopped the gate. Crawling in through the window proved difficult, considering we had to boost ourselves up, then crawl through an insanely skinny opening. But once we were in, we were in. We kind of dispersed from each other to explore different areas. One thing was for sure, the basement of the school was a mess, anything but interesting. There was little light. One small white light was on in the far corner, and the exit sign light actually produced more light than you'd think. I was looking around when I saw one of my friends in front of me. He whispered, "Let's go upstairs." So I followed him upstairs, and he opened the door up to the main hallway of the school. Everything was dark. I always thought there were at least some lights left on in the school at night. But no, not a single light was on. And all that really stood out as far as the eye could see were the various exit signs glowing red. I followed my friend down the hall and remembered saying, "Dude, this is really creepy."
You're
He replied back,
Stop it.
but I realized he was right. Who knew if somebody else could be in the building besides my friends and I? Little did I know just yet. I followed my friend to the bathroom, and he went into one of the stalls. I whispered, "Hurry up."
Hurry up, bam.
I waited for a while. Then my phone started to ring. I picked up, and it was one of my friends, Chris. He asked, "Where the hell did you go?" I said, "I'm upstairs with either Roland or Brandon." He said, "What do you mean? They're with me." And right after, both Brendan and Roland said hi, apparently on speakerphone. I stuttered the word "I." It stopped. Then there was a laughing coming from in the stall. Not the laugh of any of my friends. I looked up at the stall. There was someone looking over it at me, probably standing on the toilet. I screamed "holy shit" over and over into the phone as I left the bathroom. Shortly after I was out, I heard the stall door slam shut. I tried to run back to the basement in the dark, but it wasn't too easy to find in the dark. Luckily, I managed to find it, so I started to scream their names as I ran down the stairs. I screamed, "Go, go," when they answered, and we one by one jumped off some kind of bucket onto the window ledge and crawled back outside. I was the first one out, though, afraid that person from the bathroom was following. When we were all outside, I explained to them, out of breath, while also laughing now that I felt safe with all of them next to me. I guess we were loud or something, though, because as we all just started looking around at the whole school building and all the classroom windows, in one of the downstairs windows was someone with their hands pressed up on the glass. You could only see maybe half their face. I said, "That's gotta be him," as Roland ushered us to get the hell out of there. We ran until we were off the premises of the school, and that was that. We came up with a lot of possible explanations, but none of them really made sense. Obviously, we never did anything like that again, though.
Thank God you ain't seeing little idiots.
You're a bit tired. Elliot's a bit tired.
Yeah, I'm a bit tired too. I might go home.
You're all tired.
Yeah.
Beddy buys. Which beddy buy
Yeah.
for you?
Yeah.
Yeah, please.
No.
Yes, please.
No.
Yes.
No. No.
Go left. Left. Slow down. That one.
I don't want to do animations, man.
I think animations are way better than.
I don't care. They're more scarier.
Yeah, just do it. Or how can you? What are you gonna call this?
Crap.
Oh, Mum. Mum's still here. I think you need some. Oh, she's just having me.
I can't even skip this. No.
Tea, Sue? Oh, yes, please, yeah.
No.
With milk?
Why can't you skip it?
Because it was one of those adverts that you can't skip. We're watching animations now because Ryan's making me do animations.
They're really good.
They're not. They're making.
It's more scary for me.
No,
This is a
they're not
short
good for
but
me.
terrifying story of something that happened when I was Snapchatting a friend. I'm pretty young. I'm only 13, still in middle school. A girl I really liked had just recently started snapping me selfie pictures, and we started
What the
messaging
hell
each
is
other
that?
for a few nights. One night when I was watching,
That looks like Ryan's
she
burger
sent me
from
a snap of
earlier.
herself laying in her bed without a caption. I sent a message saying, "What's up?"
What's
She
up,
sent another
geezer?
identical picture, this time with a caption saying, "Not much, you?" She set the timer to 10 seconds, so it gave me plenty of time to analyze the picture, including her bedroom in the background, and the dark outline of a person standing by her window. I quickly sent a response message saying, "Is that your brother by the window?" She sent another
Babe.
identical snap.
Why would you
this
call
time
that
captioned,
babe?
"What do you mean?"
God.
In this picture, the figure at the window was closer, and I could see a hand pressed up against the glass. I closed the snap before the timer even ran out so I could tell her quicker. I said, "There's somebody at your window.
Andrew's
turn
at
around."
till now. He's been shopping for
She
that long,
opened my
Jesus
snap almost
Christ.
immediately, and then I didn't hear from her again on the app. I grew more and more worried as the minutes passed. I texted her a few times to no avail. I tried calling her a few times to no avail as well.
Andrew's at the till.
I didn't know her
How
house
long have
phone
you been
number,
shopping
otherwise I
for?
would've
You've been
called her
shopping for the whole
parents.
stream.
It wasn't until midnight when I was already laying in bed that she finally texted me back. She explained the whole situation. As soon as she looked at her window and saw the person standing there, she screamed. And that caused the person, who turned out to be a 20-something-year-old man, to open the window and jump into the room. From there, she ran to her parents' room and woke her dad.
Andrew's
He went
at
to
the
her room
till.
to find nothing but an open window.
Just.
Yeah, he's only just at the till. Oh, God.
It wasn't exactly a personal story of mine.
5 years. He's been shopping for the whole stream, man.
What saved my friend from whatever could have happened was the fact that I was able to see the window through her selfies, unbeknownst to the creeper at her window.
Pretty much. When God we're doing one tomorrow, this will be a bit buggered.
Oh. How long you been streaming? 1 hour.
So
Yeah,
this
1
happened a
hour
few
and like
months
23
ago.
minutes.
I'm 26. I was at JFK Airport in New York with 5 friends. All of us were about to fly down to Florida to spend the week in a beach
Look at
house.
these cartoon geezers.
We had a few more minutes to kill
I
in
think
the
it's more
airport before we would board our
scary.
flight. And
It's
I
not
really
good for the
had to go
viewers
to
though,
the
because I'll
bathroom
just
all
keep
of a
switching
sudden.
over to me and
I was
plus I'll be
baffled to
crapping
see a
myself.
line out the door for the
It's
bathroom.
scary just with these images,
I
man.
noticed a janitor walking by, so I asked her if there was another bathroom nearby that wouldn't be so crowded. She laughed and told me she shouldn't really be telling people, but there was another bathroom past the door she was pointing at, down a narrow flight of stairs and to the left. I thanked her because she was extremely nice and followed the direction she gave me. Sure enough, behind that door that no one would think to open was a small stairway that led down to a really poorly lit, skinny hallway.
That was like my room.
It was so narrow that if 2 people were to pass by each other, one person would have to stand against the wall to make room. I found the bathroom right away. The door was extremely heavy and hard to push. Also, the lights were on inside of the bathroom, and it was filthy in there. It was evident that nobody ever really came in there to clean. Now, this is a little embarrassing to mention, but when I go to the bathroom in public places, I always try to make sure nobody else is around to possibly hear me going. So after checking the stall to see that it was unoccupied, I went back into the hallway
That's
for a
disgusting.
second to take a look down both directions. To the left, there was somebody standing at the end of the hall, in a dark, unlit section of the hallway. It was a disturbing sight to say the least.
All I could do was awkwardly pull my head back into the bathroom
Bye.
and try to pretend we didn't see each other. I went into the stall and just stood there biting my fingers for a minute, dreading the thought of that door opening. And of course it did. I saw the man's black shoes under the stall door.
Oh crap, oh crap!
The stall next to mine. He shut the door, and then there was silence. No sound of the man unzipping his fly or sitting down, nothing.
Fly?
I realized I didn't really have to go anymore, and went to unlock the stall
He lost
door.
his appetite.
That's when I looked up, and saw the man's head peering over the stall, looking at me.
Ah! Fuck. Jesus!
I nearly had a heart attack as my screams bounced off the walls of the tiny bathroom. I ran back up those damn steps and out that door, and then casually walked back over to my friends. I was breathing heavily, but nobody seemed to notice. I didn't tell anyone, just because it was embarrassing, and I didn't want my friends to make fun of me in any way. I know, I guess that seems stupid now. We went on to have our Florida vacation, and all had a good time. Of course, the thought of that creepy man haunted me every night that week.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Jesus. This is why I don't watch the animated versions on videos. Shut up.
You're too loud.
It was approaching the end of summer, and my friends and I wanted to do some cool, mischievous things before going back to school. So, we had the genius idea one night to sneak into a nearby community pool. It was actually
How's that
only
a
couple
genius
blocks
idea?
away.
That's
It's
stupid.
right smack in the middle of a residential area. So instead of sitting on a main road or something, it actually just sat around a bunch of houses on a quiet road. During a hot day, the little parking lot would be full and the spot would be bustling. But at 1 in the morning, the place was of course dead. There's obviously a big fence surrounding the whole front entrance, as well as a cage that gets closed up when the place closes. So our best way was to get in through the side. We snuck into the backyard of a neighboring house and hopped the fence over to the pool. It was as easy as that. The 4 of us took off our shirts and jumped into the pool, which in retrospect wasn't smart, since any of the neighbors could have heard the splashes and just called the police. But we were dumb high schoolers. It was very, very dark within that whole enclosing. This pool had no lights, which is why it closed at sunset. James, Courtney, and Alyssa were on the other side of the pool, as I was just kind of doing my own thing at first, swimming around and getting my face wet. I saw Alyssa get out of the pool shortly after and run away.
Where are you
To see
going?
what was going on. She was just going to the water fountain, though. The 3 of us just bopped around in the water for a bit, and eventually we heard Alyssa jump back into the pool from the other side. It was too dark to see much more than her black hair covering her face.
No.
But just
No.
then we heard Alyssa playfully call something to us as she was walking back to the pool. The 3 of us in the pool looked at each other. I know they were doing the same thing as me, counting heads. There were 3 of us on this side of the pool, and here came Alyssa walking over to our side. So who was that on the other side?
Hello, Gita.
Alyssa got in, but the 3 of us were distracted, looking at the head bopping around the water across the pool. James said across the pool, "Who is that?" Not even 2 seconds later, the head went underwater and disappeared from view. We took this time to whisper to each other, mostly things like, what should we do? What if that's security? And should we run? Suddenly I felt something grab my leg with force and tried pulling me down into the water.
Oh, come
I
on,
kicked,
fam.
splashed, and yelled for help.
Help me.
James came over to pull me out of the pool, while the girls were already running for it, screaming. It wasn't until I got to the stairs of the pool that the grip on my leg was released and I was free. We hopped the same fence we climbed over to get in and ran all the way back to Alyssa's house. I was convinced that whoever that was a security guard. That is, until they literally tried to pull me under the water. We don't know what to think. There are a few possibilities. Maybe it was just another kid messing with us, maybe it was a security guard who went way too far, or most likely, it was a dangerous person who had ill intents.
She looks like she hasn't brushed her teeth in like a month.
I mean, she doesn't exactly look human.
Exactly.
Oh my god.
I'm 22 years old, fresh out of college, and I recently got a job at my old high school as a sort of computer intern in the school basement. The basement of the school is very messy and
There's you
disorganized.
got the knuckles. There's like there's knuckles.
I've seen this.
There's knuckles.
But there is a small 3-person office that's actually very nice down there. It has 3 nice big desks, 2 mini fridges, a flat screen TV mounted on the wall, and oh so satisfying air conditioning, a luxury the students and teachers cannot enjoy in the school. And of course all the school servers and other computery stuff. I got the job because 3 of my old computer teachers flat out adored me. I could actually consider them as real friends, not just teacher figures, so they all helped tremendously in landing me this job. It's been great, until something that happened a few weeks ago. My 2 co-workers that shared the office with me, Dave and Gary, weren't in the office at the time. They were upstairs working on papers or whatever. I was eating my sandwich during my lunch break when I got a phone call from one of the women in the front office telling me the school was on lockdown and that somebody possibly armed had entered the school.
Face then. No.
There wasn't much that I could do other than turn off the lights because, surprisingly, as nice as this little office was, it didn't have an actual door to it, just a big opening, and the door to the whole basement didn't even have a working lock.
Oh god.
For my own safety, I did turn off all the lights in the office and my computer screen. I kept my phone on the desk, texting both Gary and Dave, but they wouldn't respond. I sat down there in the dark, playing games on my phone for like 20 minutes, waiting for the call from my
your phone lasts that long.
working.
Battery on your phone when you play games is
I
crap.
couldn't hear what was going on upstairs from down here, but I was not allowed to make any calls until I was informed that the lockdown was over. Then the noisy basement door opened. As the creaking echoed across the basement
knuckles,
into
help.
my office, I sat up from my seat, wondering if I should call out Gary or Dave. I was eager to get some info from them.
Tell me you got the
Some
knuckles.
of them came running down the stairs, and their footsteps were approaching my office. I pushed away my chair and crawled under my desk. Somebody entered the office, but did not turn on the lights.
He's gonna get a...
There was just silence.
Yep.
I can't even describe the fear I was experiencing. I felt like if I made one sudden noise, I'd be a dead man. Suddenly, my phone dinged as I got a text message.
Oh, crap.
I felt my entire world shrivel up and die at that one moment as I clenched my teeth in fear. Footsteps suddenly moved closer to me until
Help
I
me,
finally
I am
dove
going
out
to
from under
get
the desk
clapped.
with capitulation, begging whoever it was not to kill me.
No.
And just then, someone grabbed my arm and pulled me up. It was some guy in a red plaid button-up, jeans, and a reddish black
I'm just going
hat.
his nams now and then he's coming back.
He told me, "It's okay, I'm just down here hiding with
Bloody hell.
you." "What's going on up there?" I whispered to him. He kind of ignored my question and asked me if there's an exit down here. I told him, yeah, around that way. Before he could do anything else, I asked him, "Who are you?" There was a brief moment of silence. Before he started explaining he was coming in to pick up his son, when a teacher told him to hide. After his explanation, I checked my phone and saw the text I received was from Dave. It said, "Dude, this is fucking
Guys.
crazy. Some
Yeah.
guy with a gun shot Mr. Buckley. He's wearing a red shirt and a hat. Whatever you do, don't come upstairs." I was about to reread that text
Okay.
out loud to the man until I realized. I looked up and felt my stomach sink.
And
The
be
man
either
seemed to
30
catch on to my
or 30 or
suspicious
45
stare.
minutes.
Panicked, all I could think to do was to run for the upstairs. A gunshot echoed through the basement, and I could hear the bullet ricochet off something metal in the darkness.
Bloody hell.
Thank God the bullet missed me, and I made it upstairs. Fortunately, police were waiting at all exits, including the basement exit, and caught the man the second he opened the door. More good news. Our teacher, Mr. Buckley, survived the gunshot. It was later determined that the man and Mr. Buckley had some beef for whatever reason, but that was never revealed. All we know is that Mr. Buckley couldn't have done anything that would have warranted this kind of reaction. And I know that the sound of that gunshot will forever echo in my mind.
Oh! Oh, jeez.
Yeah, gunshot.
Boom. Christmas.
When are you gonna end the stream?
I don't know yet. Mr. Night Night.
Yeah, I'm getting pretty tired. I'll go home soon.
Watch a couple more.
Like 3.
Or 4. 3 or 4.
3.
4.
Last year on Christmas Eve, I was working late.
I'm not sure.
I'm 23. I work in New York City and commute home every day on the train. Since I'm one of the younger ones in the office, I got stuck with one of the worst shifts, so I wasn't able to get home until 5 o'clock. My family had already left a whole hour earlier to go to my cousin's house, so I had to drive alone. After having a quick snack before the half-hour drive, I got back in my car and put my cousin's address into my phone.
I know.
Halfway through the drive, it started snowing. I got to my cousin's house around 6 o'clock. It was snowing heavily by this point, and I just made it in time to catch everyone starting dinner. I brought all of my gifts inside and cheerfully said hey to everyone. I stayed until around 11 o'clock. The rest of my family left a little sooner. I stayed an extra half hour or so just to hang out before leaving myself. By the time I was leaving, the ground had accumulated at least 2 feet of snow, and it wasn't even done snowing. The drive home was nightmarish. The roads were hardly even plowed, and I had to drive under 20 miles per hour on most roads. The roads were completely dead at this point though, most likely because everyone was smart enough to go home before the snow accumulated. Eventually I turned onto the main road that I'm sure would usually be bustling, but at 11:15 on Christmas
God,
Eve
yeah,
night,
what's it
there
now?
wasn't a
Yeah,
single
we'll be ending
car
soon
or a single
anyway.
light from a store.
Yeah,
It
okay.
was a
Come back
ghost
a sec.
town.
Okay.
But then I did notice the flashing taillights of one car. It was parked on the side of the road, and the smoke seeping out from its exhaust with the taillights giving it a red tint.
Yo, what?
As I got
What are you
closer,
doing?
I realized there was somebody next to the car waving their hand in the air. I assumed something was wrong and they needed help. So, me being the good Samaritan I am, I pulled up behind the car. When I opened my door,
Hey, Santa!
the man approached me immediately, barely even giving me time to step out. He was an average-sized man, probably
Santa!
5'10", 180 pounds. He spoke in a very demanding voice.
Ryan's gonna
asking me
fall.
if I know anything
Fam,
about
you're gonna
fixing
fall
engines.
off, you silly.
I told him I didn't know much about cars. The guy responded very quickly to everything I said. He told me it's fine. He went inside his car for a second, popped open his trunk, came back out, and told me to just wait by the trunk for a second. I had no idea what he wanted me to do. I was really confused. He walked over to the front of his car, and I heard him open the hood. I couldn't see anything he was doing since the trunk was blocking my view, and the loud wind of the snowstorm overpowered any small noises he might have been making. I put my hands on the back of the car and leaned my body in anticipation, when suddenly I heard 3 or 4 quick and aggressive footsteps in the snow behind me before I was pushed into the trunk. The man tried to close the trunk on me, but I kicked my feet up in resistance and held it up. I was able to overpower him and kick the trunk open completely. As I took advantage of the few seconds I had to get out of the trunk, I took out my keys. He tried to grab me now, and I dug my house.
Oh! Ha!
He fell to his knees, and his scream echoed down the deserted street. I was in my car and halfway down the road before he could even get up from his knees.
Bloody hell, that was quick.
A little further down, I called 911 and reported the guy. I came back in 10 minutes to find blue and red lights illuminating the windows of the deserted stores. The police held him until the ambulance arrived for him. I watched the whole thing, and nothing ever felt better in my life. I got home safely half an hour later and told my family everything. I was still very shaken that Christmas, and this remains possibly the most horrific thing I've ever experienced.
You got socks for Christmas. Fam, you must be that poor for you to get socks.
That's not brother.
We watched this one and one more.
I don't want
What?
nothing. I'm about to go to sleep right now.
No, you're not.
Too late.
God.
Back in high school, I took a mysteries and mythology type class, or something like that. I don't remember the name of the class. It basically just had to do with real life mysteries and creepy shit. I was into that kind of stuff. I was taking the class with a good friend, who I'll call Ben for this story. The teacher of the class took us on a field trip to a nearby abandoned village with an unknown past. The village was built in the early 1900s, but seems as though it had been quickly abandoned shortly after it was built. The bus ride there was about 20 minutes. All of us were glued to the bus windows as we pulled up some sketchy-looking, decrepit road cutting through dense forest. The road eventually led to a clearing. We were there. We stepped out onto the road, which had grass growing through the cracks. The grass surrounding was almost knee-high. Then there were the buildings. The tall, archaic brick buildings with the boarded-up windows all gave off such chilling vibes.
5 minutes long.
The teacher lined all 20
this will be
of
the
us
last
up,
one.
counted heads,
And then, me and Antonelli will be doing another one tomorrow.
Field trip
Don't worry
was
about
to
that.
use the so-called skills we learned in class.
The only
to
reason
see
why I'm
if
not
we could
counting
put
Ryan
anything
is because he's the
together
most
about why
determined
the
one.
village may have been abandoned so long ago.
Nothing.
Some of the buildings had holes in the walls to serve as entryways.
Tell me.
There were even holes in the...
I was just saying. Yeah, me and Antonelli will do another one tomorrow.
Yeah, I know, but you said something about me.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, you did.
Didn't.
You did.
No, I didn't.
You better start telling me before I start.
Oh, fine. I said I'm not. I said I'm not counting you because you're the most determined one. Because you'll probably be.
Oh, true.
It'll be scheduled, and I'll. Well, me and Harry will. I'll have a go at yell at Andrew saying why did you not tune up for this stream because it could have been fun if he was in it.
Taller than any of the others. It just intrigued me the most.
Ah!
Well done, Ryan.
While the teacher
Idiot.
was leading the
It's
group
not
towards the
funny.
village
Yes.
church, Ben and I decided to sneak off on our own to look for anything
Yeah.
interesting.
Alright, let's see this.
When we walked off in the direction of the tallest building,
If I hit my computer, I swear to God, I'll deck
it
you,
was built by
Joe.
the back door of the
I'll
building.
deck your
which
face,
had
bro.
a
Deck you,
steel wall.
Georgie.
In the hole was a ladder which led down to the concrete floor below.
Right, let's
We
see
both
this.
looked at each other and knew we had to do it.
Cause you're
Ben climbed down first, then me. Luckily, this was just around the time Apple started putting flashlights on their phones, so we had a source of light.
Good G.
It was creepy down there. There were a couple of beer bottles, one graffiti tag on the wall, and dusty wooden planks everywhere.
Dusty like your
There was a
mom.
wooden stairway which led up to complete darkness.
That's gonna break you,
since all
Georgie.
windows and doors had been sealed shut
Nothing.
from above.
You think you
We
could
had
run
already
away?
gone as far as to enter the building, so we figured we'd go up the stairs too.
Right.
I went first, and with each step,
You see
the
how good that was?
creakiness of the
Yeah.
100-year-old wood
It's
made
like
me feel
full.
as if I was going
Yeah.
to fall through each and every step. Ben followed suit.
Right. What's your favorite?
This floor of the building was very tight. It
Hey,
seemed like there
that
were
was what I
many
needed.
openings going off into different, smaller rooms. It was so dark in there, you would never even guess it was daytime. Ben and I were honestly starting to get freaked out in there.
You're not
We
that
agreed to
mean.
go back
Stop.
outside. But just then, there was
Andrew's
a noise
home.
in one of the tiny rooms. Like
Andrew's
a big
home.
rock hitting the concrete floor.
God.
A normal instinct would be to run. But Ben and I froze, locked eyes for a moment.
Andrew's
Then
home.
both
We have to
tiptoed
unpack.
over to the opening of the
Why do you have
room.
to help unpack, Rogers?
We shined the lights into the room and ran. We ran back down the stairs and then up the rusty ladder back outside. We caught up to the group out of breath. We didn't say anything, though, to avoid getting in trouble. One of our classmates asked us what was wrong. We told him we snuck into one of the buildings. And in one of the rooms, when we shone light into it, we saw 3 guys standing maybe 10 feet away from the doorway, facing Ben and I in a weird formation, as if they were waiting for us. As we continued following the group, we paid extra attention to the tall building we entered from the distance. And before leaving, we saw a person's face at one of the
Hello,
high-level
Giza.
windows that had not been boarded up. We never told the teacher in fear of getting in trouble. We didn't know what to think. Were those just homeless people living in there? Were they gang members in hiding? Ben freaks me out with his theory. He says they were ghosts of the people who once lived in the town. Still, the way the three guys were just hauntingly standing there, so calmly, staring at us the moment we peeked our heads through that doorway, I still can't get that image out of my head. I may go back to that village one day, just to prove Ben's idea wrong.
What the hell? Why would he go back there? Why would you go back there? You are stupid. He is stupid confirmed. See, that's going to be the end of today's stream. I hope you have enjoyed it. Please like, subscribe, yeah, turn on notifications. Me and Andrew and Elliot will be doing another stream tomorrow. They'll be scheduled.
And I won't be joining.
Yes, because you'll be...
Yep. Snoring like an old man.
Yeah, but he might join in next week's stream.
Maybe. Possibly.
Yeah, it's possible.
1 in 500 chances.
There's more than likely. So yeah, I hope you have enjoyed. Nothing really much to say, but I hope I'll see you tomorrow for another stream. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.
Bye. Have a nice time.